We start off with this guy who is absolutely tripping balls as we speak, but to understand how we got here in the first place, we have to go a little further back in time. One night, our MC was sitting on a bench by a train station with his friends, high as a kite and complaining that Japan is really boring and he would love to go to some foreign country. That night, he had his midlife crisis at 16. He realized that he was no hero nor villain. Not even one of those useful supporting characters, he was one of those NPCs that have no impact in the world, the bottom of the barrel. More than anything, he wants to escape this world and live a more exciting life. He doesn't care where he goes or how it happens. He just wants something exciting. And this was his first mistake. He was not specific about which method he wanted, so now instead of truck-kun, he could get anything. It could be train-kun, it could even be vending machine-kun. Hey, why is the sun rising at night? They wake up on a sandy beach with no idea how they got there or how they are even alive. At first, they chalk it up to just smoking something a little too strong last night. But the desolate city tells a different story. They make their way into a convenience store and find that it is also abandoned. Though it looks like ages have passed, the canned foods are still edible, so they at least don't have to worry about food. Chowda, who looks like he is still high, thinks this is all a dream, but the Karoo pinches him, proving that this is indeed reality. Though despite their bizarre situation, Arisu is still getting oddly excited about the idea of an adventure in a dystopian world. And Chowda is all in with him, since now there are no annoying parents or teachers here, so they are finally free. They spend the entire day drinking and partying under the delusion that this is all still a dream. But Karoo yells at them to snap back to reality. Too much time has passed here for all this to still just be a dream, so they have to face the facts. This is their world now, and they have to start thinking about how they are going to survive here. Just then, they notice some light up on a mountaintop, and they all go to see what it is. As they arrive, they find a festival set up, but with nobody else there. This is incredibly suspicious, yet Chowda and Arisu don't give it a second thought and immediately start chowing down on the food there. Soon after, a machine states that as 4 people have entered, the game will now be beginning. Karoo gets a bad feeling about this and tries to leave, but a woman, who was the 4th person mentioned before, warns him that if he tries leaving, it's not going to be in one piece. She realizes that this must be the guy's first time here, so she cautions them that it is too late to back out of the game now, and the only way to escape with their lives is to win the game. This particular game involves them picking fortune slips, which relieves Shibuki, as that is one of the easier games to complete. Arisu still hasn't wrapped his head around the whole death game thing, so he starts bombarding Shibuki with questions about this place, but she tells him to shut up and think about it for himself since she isn't here to babysit him. They get to the machine to draw the fortune slips, but everyone is a little hesitant to do it since there is a chance of dying. So Karoo decides to go up first and collect his fortune. Luckily, he gets a good one, so nothing bad is going to happen to him, which gives Chowda a boost of confidence to finish his own selection. He gets a card with the math problem on it and is told by the machine that he must answer the problem on it. However, Chowda never really paid attention in math class, so he gets the answer wrong and as punishment, gets 3 flaming arrows shot at him. He doesn't think it is serious at first, but in the distance, 3 flaming arrows approach and nearly hit him, but he luckily fell out of the way. Chowda and Arisu now understand the gravity of the situation that they find themselves in now and start to freak out. Shibuki says she is going to take her turn now, but Arisu says it is too dangerous. But what is actually dangerous is what will happen if they let time run all the way down, so she has no choice but to make her selection. She gets unlucky and receives a curse slip with a really difficult math problem. But instead of freaking out, she starts trying to at least minimize the margin of error along with Karoo. Arisu suddenly isn't so excited anymore and wants to go back home. Meanwhile, Shibuki and Karoo are done doing all the math to minimize the margin of error in the answer. But boy, do they suck at math. Their answer was 30, but the correct answer was 450, so now they will have 420 arrows rain down upon them. Arisu is scared out of his mind and feels like he's going to die here, but Karoo steps up and kicks him square in the behind to knock him out of his funk. If he wants to live, then he's going to have to find a good hiding place from the arrows. They all head for cover, except Chowda, who is just running out in the open and gets shot in the leg. Karoo rushes over to put out the fire and help him, and he is actually starting to find this to be fun. Seeing Karoo's confidence, Arisu goes to select his fortune, but he gets the greatest curse and some Harvard-level math problem to solve. The others give up hope since there is no way that he gets the answer correct, but Arisu activates his big brain and starts thinking about everything that has happened recently and figures out the objective of the game. He answers the question saying the answer is around 6.9 billion, and he was pretty close, give or take 3 million arrows. But the goal was never to get the answer correct, rather, it was to figure out that the slips gave instructions on how to survive the challenge. And on this slip, Arisu said the arrows will come from the north. So everyone makes a run for it with tables shielding their backs from the arrows. As they get to the opposite wall, they find that there is an old well there. They think they have finally found their safe haven, but the well has been filled in with dirt. Arisu is out of ideas and doesn't know what he could have possibly missed. But then an arrow lands in the well and bounces off something metallic, so Karoo realizes that it is likely a metal door there and pulls it open to allow them to enter. They finally manage to escape the arrow rain and complete the game as a result of their efforts. They also get a card and a visa as their prize, which shows how long they can stay in Borderland. There are many other people here in Borderland, and they all take part in games that happen after sunset. If you manage to clear the game and win, then you will get a visa that extends your stay in Borderland. The game they just completed has extended their stay period to 3 days. As they are walking through an abandoned building, they come across another participant who is too scared to participate in any more games since all of his friends have already died because of it. But if you don't play any games, then your visa is going to run out, and once your visa expires, you get deported to the underworld via laser. Back in the past, before they got transported to Borderland, Arisu and Chowda would always go visit Karoo at his bar, though they were basically freeloading since they never pay for anything there. Chowda praises Karoo for having his whole life planned out and already owning a bar despite being the same age as them. Meanwhile, Arisu is there with no idea what he wants to do at all and living in the shadow of his genius younger brother. He says that if he ever got sent to another world and had to play in a survival game, then maybe he would finally be able to bring out his full potential. And he got exactly what he wished for. Karoo has just finished cooking them up some food, so they all sit down to eat the fish. But they start complaining that it has no taste to it since there is no salt, like Karoo didn't just catch and cook it by himself. At times like this, it makes it not feel so bad that they are stuck in Borderlands. And on that note, Karoo suggests that they do another game tonight. Arisu thinks that is unnecessary since they still got 3 days left on their visa and Chowda is injured. But Karoo thinks that is exactly why they should take on another game. Chowda will sit this one out since he is injured, but if they get too relaxed with how things are, they won't be able to risk their lives and survive future games. Chowda understands what Karoo means, but that leaves him as the dead weight of the team, so it scares him that they might leave him behind. Karoo has no intention of leaving Chowda, but Shibuki tells him that she will wait behind with him. And when the time comes to take on a game to get his visa extended, she will do it with him. Arisu and Karoo then go on to join another game that night and find a room with many other people. Some of them appear to be new and have yet to realize that this game can actually lead to their death. The rules of the game are explained, and they are going to be playing tag. There is a killer on the loose, and they must make it to the safe room before they are killed. Arisu and Karoo team up with this guy and take the corner of the building to watch for the location of the killer, since it gives them a good vantage point for all the entryways. But they are not the only ones to come up with a plan like that, as there is another guy on the opposite corner of the top floor who is also watching out for the killer. The killer makes his first appearance and uses his machine gun to kill some people who were above Arisu and Karoo, and as they get a good look at the guy, they start freaking out as he points his horse head and machine gun at them. They start running down the stairs, but halfway through, Arisu tells Karoo to stop for a minute and hide on the 3rd floor, but the guy they were with doesn't listen and keeps running down. Against a gun, you want to avoid a clear line of sight for the killer, so hiding in the stairwell makes the most sense here. So it would make sense to run all the way to the bottom floor to prevent that. However, the killer is most likely expecting that and thus wouldn't bother looking on the middle floors. And Arisu's plan pays off as the killer walks right past them. They make it out alive, but their teammate isn't so lucky. Died so quickly that we didn't even get his name. Arisu and Karoo take a minute to breathe and gather their thoughts. They decide that now that the killer is somewhere else in the building, it is their last chance to find the safe room and escape with their lives. Karoo then yells out to everyone in the building that they should all yell the location of the killer whenever they spot him so that the others can look for the safe room together. But getting a group of total strangers to work together isn't going to be that easy, as no one really cares what happens to anyone else as long as they themselves are safe. However, one girl goes along with the plan and tells everyone where the killer is as he approached her. She then runs around the corner to escape, but finds a woman standing there as well. The girl was not equipped to help that woman, so unfortunately, she has to escape alone and Spider-Mans her way to the upper floor. Meanwhile, someone has given up on the game and tries to leave the playing field, but is met with a minefield outside. Elsewhere in the building, these two encounter each other, and one asks the buff guy if he knows any close combat sport. The guy answers that he was a wrestler, so they come up with a plan to break the killer's necks so they can end this once and for all. Arisu and Karoo are busy looking for the safe room, But Arisu is running out of steam, so he wishes he had done more sports in high school. The killer pops around a corner and fires at Karub, but he was able to hide behind a corner. However, Arisu is still in the middle of the hallway and only saved by the doorway space. His goose is cooked, and he is sure that as soon as the killer walks by, he is going to turn Arisu into Swiss cheese. He gets so scared that he starts having flashbacks to how he was ignored in his family. Meanwhile, Karub is running down the stairs and wishing he hadn't left Arisu behind, praying that he somehow manages to survive but gets sprayed with a fire extinguisher from the previous two who planned to kill the killer. As Arisu was always ignored by his family, he is also not noticed by the killer, which he is thankful for. As the killer goes past him and into the stairwell, Karub is standing there to taunt him and get him ambushed by the others. The wrestler puts him in a choke hold in order to break his neck, and it looks like they've won, but the killer had more than one gun and was able to kill both of them. He is now chasing down Karub, and Arisu spots them, so he yells to warn him. The killer fires at him, forcing Arisu to back off for now, but that gave Arisu some major insight into the motives of the killer. He isn't trying to kill everyone, he is just trying to prevent them from finding the home base before the time is up. And if that is what he is trying to do, then he would likely guard the safe room to prevent anyone from finding it. But by doing so, that tells them exactly where they have to go. Arisu and Karub team up to distract the killer and tackle him away from the safe room to allow Arisu to make it inside. But even though he has made it in, they need two people to press the buttons. However, Karub is busy and they have less than 30 seconds left. Luckily, Spider-Girl is back to help and pushes the button with Arisu, causing the game to end and the killer's head to explode. They can finally rest now that they have won the game, but Karub is busy following a clue that one other participant gave him. He didn't get much information, but he did tell him that he might want to listen to the radio. So now, Karub is trying to hotwire a car so he can listen to the radio, and he hears something about the beach. Meanwhile, Chaba is worried since he has to participate in a game before tomorrow, so that his visa doesn't expire. He's incredibly scared because thus far he has had barely any screen time and no flashbacks to his past, and that points to one likelihood. He isn't going to survive, especially since he was basically carried through the first game by the others. Shibuki tries to comfort him by sharing that she is also scared out of her mind and wishes she could go home right now, even if it meant that she would be bored once again, but they can't change their situation. Elsewhere, on a roof, Arisu is thinking about what happened after the last game ends, and he tries to recruit Spider-Girl to help. Her name is Usagi, and though his offer to join forces was tempting, she preferred to work alone in order to prevent a situation where a game would force her to kill her teammates. But Arisu is determined to never let that happen to him and the others. Meanwhile, Shibuki is at the end of her rope with all the frustration she has been going through, so with Chaba sitting right there, she decides that they can make each other feel better, and they smash. The game Shibuki first played when she arrived in Borderland was a heart game, one that challenges your mentality and is the worst possible one to get as a beginner. In this game, you have to go through 4 train cars where one is filled with a lethal gas. To survive, you are given 3 gas masks, but that isn't enough for all the rooms. Naturally, one wouldn't want to risk their life so early in the game and would end up using all their gas masks in the first 3 cars. Thus, when they would get to the last car, they would be out of gas masks and be guaranteed death if the next train car had the poison gas. By that point, she had given up on surviving and just wanted to get it all over with, so she just opened the door and waited for death. But death never came. Chowda comforts her and says that she has a team that she can rely on from now on. And elsewhere, Arisu says he will make sure that they all survive together. Well, that was a fucking lie. 30 minutes earlier, the group headed into the next game and saw that it would only be lasting 10 minutes, which works out in their favor since Chowda is injured and can't last long. They find a table full of very murdery garden tools and then some scouters which they have to put on. The scouters track all movement within view, so Arisu surmises that they must have to hunt something in this jungle. But he would never have guessed that they would be hunting each other. The game begins and it is revealed that it is a heart game which worries Chowda and Shibuki. They are going to be playing hide and seek, where 3 people are going to be the sheep and 1 person is the wolf. The game's rules are simple. If the wolf looks at a sheep, then the sheep becomes the wolf and the game continues. This sends shivers down their spines since that means that they must compete against each other in the game. After 10 minutes have passed, the game will end and the wolf will have cleared the game. This is an even greater shock to them as it means that only one of them can survive this, since once time is up, all the sheep will have their heads explode. The game begins and they are all frozen in fear. Chowda is chosen as the first wolf, but once he looks at Arisu, Arisu becomes the wolf. The same happens when Arisu looks at Karub and Karub at Shibuki. There is no point for the sheep to hide from the wolf if they are all trying to become the wolf to survive, and there is no reason for Shibuki to look at them since she needs to stay the wolf in order to survive. So although she doesn't want to see them die, she wants to die even less. So she starts running and Karub starts chasing after her since he doesn't want to die either. He pins Shibuki to the ground and threatens her to look at him or he will kill her. She doesn't think he is crazy enough to do that since if she dies as the wolf, then no one will be able to survive. But Karub is plenty crazy, you can tell because of the shadows on his face. Shibuki manages to use the blunt side of the axe to knock Karub off her, but as she gets up, she accidentally looks at Chowda. And with tears in his eyes, Chowda dips out of there. Arisu chases after Chowda and yells for him to stop, and normally, no one would actually stop. But his injured leg is only going to carry him so far, so he stops and looks back at Arisu. Now that Arisu has become the wolf, he runs off to go and hide so that he can survive this game. He tries to convince himself that he needs to do this after all the other people are just two dudes and a woman he met 3 days ago. While hiding, Chowda uses the scouter to call everyone. He's given up on surviving and doesn't care who ends up living. He just wanted to let them know that yesterday he had sex with Shibuki. So even if he dies here, he will not be dying a virgin. He also apologizes for being so weak and trying to run away earlier. Listening to this, Arisu remembers that the only reason he has made it this far in life is because of his friends, and even if he survived here by sacrificing his friends, the depression he would get afterwards would finish him off. And for that reason, he is withdrawing from the game. He tells the others that he will be standing at the entrance, and if they want to live, they should come and have him look at them. Karub has also realized how stupid he was being and has no intention of sacrificing his friends, and Shibuki can't bring herself to let anyone sacrifice themselves for her sake after hearing them talk. But at this rate, Arisu is going to end up as the sheep and survive the game. As his last words, Karub talks about the dream he had of spending time with Arisu after they had both accomplished their goals and moved to Australia. Arisu had once mentioned working as a reporter and writing books to publish in Australia, and Karub had hoped he would be able to visit him if they went together, but I guess that isn't going to be happening anymore. Arisu desperately searches for anyone to pass on the title of wolf to, but they are all hiding from him. And as the timer reaches 0, 3 explosions occur, leaving Arisu all alone. As he lay there on the floor, Usagi walks up to him and asks if he has the will to continue living. He is silent at first, but then he curses at the organizers of this death game and swears that he will find and kill them all one day. Usagi then offers him a hand and says they will survive this together, forming a team with him to take on the challenges here.